I moved into my first apartment without much excitement. It wasn't a milestone moment or anything dramatic, just something that felt overdue. I was tired of living with roommates, tired of sharing space, and mostly tired of never feeling fully alone. I wanted a place where nothing happened unless I caused it to happen. The building itself was older but well-maintained, the kind of place that had clearly been renovated just enough to keep it rentable. Hardwood floors, thick walls, and hallways that smelled faintly like cleaning supplies no matter what time of day it was. It sat a little off the main road, close enough to everything I needed, but far enough away that traffic noise never carried inside. My unit was Room 104, a first-floor corner apartment with large windows facing the parking lot. That detail mattered more than I realized at the time. During the day, sunlight poured in through those windows, making the place feel warmer and more open than it actually was. At night, the streetlights outside cast long, uneven shadows across the living room floor. The first few days passed without anything worth mentioning. I unpacked slowly, assembling furniture as I needed it instead of all at once, and figured out where things belonged as I went. I set up my desk in the bedroom, pushed against the wall opposite the bed, and put my laptop there for work. It felt normal, comfortable even, like I was finally settling into something stable. I noticed small things about the apartment, but nothing alarming. The floors creaked a bit when I walked around barefoot, and the pipes made noise when the heat kicked on, but that's true of most older buildings. I heard neighbors through the walls occasionally, muffled conversations or the sound of a TV, but never anything intrusive. The first night I slept there, I kept the blinds open by accident. I realized it when I came back from brushing my teeth and saw the glow of the parking lot lights spilling into the room. I closed them, turned off the lamp, and went to bed without another thought. I slept fine that night. The second night is when things started to feel off, though I wouldn't have described it that way at the time. I woke up sometime in the early morning hours with that vague sense that something wasn't quite right. It wasn't fear, exactly, just a feeling of alertness that didn't match how tired I was. I lay there for a moment, listening. The apartment was quiet, no voices, no footsteps in the hallway. No obvious reason for my brain to have pulled me out of sleep. I rolled onto my side, facing away from the desk, and tried to go back to sleep. That's when I noticed the light. It was faint enough that I almost missed it at first, just a small glow coming from the other side of the room. I turned my head and focused on it, my eyes adjusting to the darkness. My laptop was on. More specifically, the webcam indicator light was on. At first, I told myself it had to be some kind of reflection or leftover light from the screen, but the longer I looked at it, the more obvious it became that it was exactly what I thought it was. That tiny blue dot only came on when the camera was active. That second night is when I stopped brushing it off as a coincidence. I remember lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, trying to fall asleep, while that quiet sense of being watched kept creeping back in. It wasn't panic yet, just discomfort, like when you realize someone is standing a little too close behind you in a line. When I finally rolled over and looked toward my desk, my heart dropped. The laptop was open again, even though I was certain I had shut it down before going to bed. What really bothered me wasn't the screen, though. It was the tiny blue light next to the webcam, glowing steadily instead of flickering the way it had the night before. I sat there for a long moment, convincing myself there had to be a reasonable explanation, but the longer I watched it, the more obvious it became that the camera was active. I could feel my pulse in my ears as I got out of bed and crossed the room, every step feeling louder than it should have. I pressed the power button and nothing happened. No shutdown screen, no response at all. The fan inside the laptop was running quietly, like it was in the middle of doing something important and didn't want to be interrupted. That's when the screen changed. A small window opened in the corner, the kind that usually pops up for messaging apps, except there was no logo and no name attached to it. At first, it was completely empty, just a blinking cursor waiting for input. I didn't touch the keyboard and I didn't say anything out loud. I just stood there watching. After a few seconds, the cursor started to move on its own. It typed a few words, paused, erased them, then went still again. Like whoever was on the other end was reconsidering what they wanted to say. Before anything else could appear, the window vanished and the laptop shut itself down so abruptly that the screen went black instantly. I stood there in the dark, trying to slow my breathing, telling myself over and over that this had to be some kind of software issue. I unplugged the laptop and slid it into my closet, then pushed a chair up against the door like that would somehow make a difference. The next day, I didn't go anywhere. I stayed inside, replaying the night in my head, trying to find the moment where I'd misunderstood something or jumped to the wrong conclusion. Eventually, I convinced myself that the worst thing I could do was let my imagination run away with it. So I plugged the laptop back in and ran every security scan I could think of. Nothing came up. No malware, no remote access software, nothing out of the ordinary. That should have made me feel better, but it didn't. It just meant I didn't know what I was dealing with. That night, my phone rang while I was sitting on the couch, the TV on low volume in front of me. The number wasn't saved in my contacts, and I almost ignored it. But something about the timing made my stomach tighten. I answered before I could talk myself out of it. At first, there was nothing but silence. Then I heard breathing, slow and controlled, like whoever it was had the phone pressed close to their mouth. I asked who it was, but they didn't respond right away. When they finally spoke, their voice was so quiet, I almost missed it. "We see it," they said. Before I could ask what that meant, the call ended. I didn't sleep that night, or the night after that. Instead, I started digging through my laptop more carefully, checking folders I'd never paid attention to before. That's when I found a directory buried deep in the system files with a name I didn't recognize. Inside were video clips, dozens of them at first, then hundreds as I kept scrolling. Every video was dated and time-stamped, almost always recorded sometime after midnight. When I opened the first one, my bedroom filled the screen. I recognized the angle immediately because it matched the position of my laptop on the desk. In the video, I was asleep in my bed, completely unaware of what was happening. The footage lasted only a few minutes, but that was more than enough. I shut the file and sat there in silence, my hands shaking. I checked the file dates. Some of them were from nights I clearly remembered waking up feeling unsettled for no reason. Others were from nights I thought I'd slept straight through. The worst part was realizing that the earliest recording wasn't from after I moved in. It was from before. I don't know how long I sat there staring at the screen after that. Eventually, I deleted the folder, unplugged the laptop, and packed what I could fit into my car. I didn't wait for daylight. I moved out a few days later without giving notice, and I never went back to that building. I still cover the camera on every device I own, even my phone. And sometimes, late at night, when everything is quiet, I still get that same uncomfortable feeling that something is paying attention, just out of view.